Are you a neurodivergent parent of a neurodivergent child? Me too. Today I am going to be talking about the positives and negatives of this, so keep watching. I'm Kath, I'm 40 and this year I was diagnosed with ADHD. My youngest daughter, who is now 11, was diagnosed this year with autism, and I believe that both of us have both autism and ADHD. We share a lot of similar traits and we feel very similar about a lot of things. So, as a neurodivergent parent of a neurodivergent child, there are positives and negatives to this. I'm going to first speak about some of the negatives. So, I am predominantly, I would say, even though I have a lot of autistic traits, I am actually awaiting an assessment. My brain is predominantly ADHD, I would say, in the way that I behave. And with ADHD comes executive dysfunction. So because the prefrontal cortex in our brain is dysregulated when it comes to organisation, when it comes to processing time, things like that, I struggle to process time. I can't tell how much time, I can tell the time, I can't tell how much time has passed. I struggle with staying organised, but I deeply want to be organised. I want structure in my life. I really want to be an organised person, but it's like the ADHD in me kind of takes over, and I do struggle with that. So, for example, when it comes to making plans, I'm much more spontaneous. I'd rather decide at the last minute, right, should we go here today or should we go here tomorrow? Whereas if I were to make plans like weeks in advance, although sometimes I do have to do that, but I prefer not to, because if I made plans weeks in advance, then when the time comes, it might not be the right situation to go. I might not feel like going, or that's why I prefer to do it at the last minute. This can cause a problem with being a parent to a neurodivergent child, because along with autism comes structure. Like my daughter, she needs structure to function well, and I need structure as well to function well. It's just I do struggle to get that structure. So this is where it can become a problem. I would love to be an organised person who thinks, right, at this time we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. It doesn't work like that for me, even though I do try. So I have got some things in place now that help me, that I am able to, things I'm working on that I'm finding that are working for me. So that is a positive. But overall, I do believe that having this kind of chaotic mind that struggles with organisation is a negative when it comes to parenting a neurodivergent child, but it is something that can be worked on. This is more of a neutral, so I would say you have to have patience. As a parent to a neurodivergent child, you have to have patience, and I have learned that as the years have gone on, and the more I understand about neurodivergency, I have learned patience. So for example, if my daughter is struggling, if she's worried about something and she's feeling really overwhelmed, it's going to start off, if she starts going into an autistic meltdown, it starts with fear and then it turns into anger, because in general in life, most anger comes from fear. That applies to anyone, whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. Most anger comes from fear. So for my daughter, it kind of goes fear, then anger. When she's angry, it's just because she's overwhelmed and everything's coming out. And when she's angry, there's absolutely no point trying to punish her out of it. Like society would maybe see that and think, that's a naughty child. No, that is not a naughty child. My daughter, when she's in this stage, she's just completely overwhelmed. And your child as well, if you're watching this and you're a parent to a neurodivergent child, your child is overwhelmed. It's coming out as anger, At this point, there was no point me trying to shout at my daughter. So what I do say to her is, I'm going to give you a minute to help to calm yourself down, because I need to make it clear to her I'm not ignoring her. I'm not giving you the silent treatment, I'm just giving you some time to calm down. So she knows I'm there still, but I'm not going to try and speak to you while you're expressing yourself in this way, because we're not going to get anywhere. So that's kind of what I do. I take a step back, but I let her know that I am still here and I'm not ignoring her. After the anger stage comes sadness, and when she's in that stage, she'll be feeling sad, and I can then approach her and talk to her about how she's feeling. I can get to the bottom of what's going on in her mind, and she's more receptive to talk to me then. After sadness comes the stage where she reflects on her thoughts and her behaviours, and then this is when she will apologise off her own back. If she said something when she was angry, which often she does, she will apologise for that. So she is able to think about her actions and apologise if necessary. So it goes fear, anger, sadness, apology. That is the pattern of it, and that is the same every time. And it took me a bit of time to learn that pattern, but now it's like clockwork. She doesn't have meltdowns all the time, but when she does, I can predict exactly the stages she's going to go through. So patience is required. There's no point losing your temper. There's no point getting angry about it. You just need patience in those situations. So that, although it's obviously not a negative to have patience, but again, as somebody who has ADHD, patience doesn't come naturally, and I've had to learn that. Also, you will know this as a parent to a neurodivergent child. Many of our children are PDA, and when they are rushed or when they feel under pressure to do something, they will start to get stressed out. So, for example, in the morning when my daughter's getting ready for school, I'm really trying to get her to school on time. So I know what time that we need to be at school, and I'm able to work out roughly what time we need to leave at. And I'm trying to get her to get dressed, but if I rush her in any way, she's gonna get stressed out, like visibly stressed out, and then she'll be saying, don't rush me. And when she says that, she'll just stop what she's doing and she won't continue until she feels calm. So I've had to learn patience for that, to not rush her, or to think of a different way to say, can you hurry up please, but say it in a different way. That can be really frustrating at times, but this is where patience comes in. Now I'm going to move on to some positive traits, because it is such a beautiful relationship that as a neurodivergent parent with a neurodivergent child, it's such an amazing relationship. So the first one is empathy. Now, I consider myself to be an empath, and I have been an empath since I was very young. The more I'm understanding about neurodivergency is I'm also understanding that a lot of neurodivergent people also consider themselves to be empaths and experience really deep empathy. Whether that is something that goes hand in hand with neurodivergency, or whether it's maybe some kind of trauma response, I don't know. But I have read a lot and spoken to a lot of people who experience the same deep empathy. This is definitely a positive, because I am able to put myself in the position of other people, whether it be my daughter, whether it be anyone, neurotypical, neurodivergent. I'm able to have deep empathy for people, and I feel how they're feeling. Not saying to the exact extent, but I can feel things even if they're not saying things. Same applies to my daughter. When it comes to her verbalising how she's feeling, she kind of tends to stick to the same three emotions. She's either happy, sad, or angry. There's no kind of, she doesn't know, I'm not saying she doesn't know, but she doesn't know how to express any other emotions, like how to say I'm feeling frustrated or I'm feeling, you know, it's just those main three emotions that she will say. And being empathic or having that empathy, I can feel how she's feeling, and it helps me to work out what's going on in her mind, and then I'm able to talk to her about it and help her to resolve the situation much more quickly before it escalates into something where she's going to be feeling really sad, or before it escalates into a meltdown. So that's a positive, definitely. I'm also able to understand how she's feeling with regards to the situations when a neurotypical person might think, I don't understand why you're so upset about that. But for me, I understand why she's upset about that, because I would be upset about that too in that situation. And when I was young, when I was her age, that is something that I was upset about. With neurodivergency comes rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and as an adult, I've worked a lot on my mindset, so I don't experience this as much anymore, but I have experienced this for my whole life, especially when I was a child. And it can be just a certain tone of voice or a certain look that someone's give you is enough to make you feel like, oh, they don't like me. Or I remember I used to think if a teacher looked at me in a certain way, I would think the teacher hated me. And that feeling, it feels like a permanent feeling. It feels like that teacher hates me and they're never going to like me again. So a lot of my daughter's, the way she feels about things comes from rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And it doesn't always mean that, of course, that person does feel like that way about her, but I understand where that comes from, and I understand exactly how she must be feeling. So empathy is an absolute massive positive trait of being a neurodivergent parent. You've got that deep bond with your child. The next positive one is that your child can be free to be themselves. I have always been the weird one. I've always, out of my groups of friends over the years, I've always been the weird one who wanted to talk about deep subjects and weird things, or things that other people might consider boring or weird. I've always felt like an outsider. I've always felt like I didn't quite fit in, but as a result of that, I'm proud of that now. I never used to be. I used to want to fit in, but now I'm proud of it. And at home, I'm comfortable to be myself and to talk to people about the things that I'm interested in without feeling judged. And as a result of that, both of my daughters are free to be themselves without judgment. I'm never ever gonna make them feel embarrassed or make them feel bad for being interested in something that other people might consider weird, or for doing a funny dance, or for anything like that. I am here for all of their emotions, whether they be happy, sad, angry. I encourage anger in our house. Obviously in a way that doesn't hurt themselves or others, but if they're feeling angry, I encourage them to express it, whether that to scream into a pillow or to get some exercise to release some of that tension. I encourage it, and I encourage their uniqueness. And I think that's another really positive trait of being a neurodivergent parent. We're used to being the weird ones, and as a result of that, our children can be free to be themselves, at least at home. Even if they don't feel like they can be in the outside world, we can give them that safe space to be themselves and to be proud of who they are. That was just a quick video, but thank you so much for watching. If you have found value in this video, please like and subscribe.